Jim Longworth, and welcome to another edition of Triad Today, coming to you once again from the beautiful Senior Botanical Garden in downtown Connersville. We'll tell you more about that later. Also coming up later, our infamous roundtable with talking about a lot of controversial topics and some special guests along the way, so we hope you'll stay tuned. But right now, I want to talk about a lot of things in a short period of time, everything from law enforcement to race relations to things that we should spend 3 or 4 hours on, but our special guest only has a few minutes, and I want to take advantage of his time here. Next to me, my good friend, Bobby Kimbrough Jr., Sheriff of Forsyth County, also a former special agent with the U.S. Department of Justice and author of a book called Surviving the Stop. And he said, well, Jim, this is a new book. No, it was written 4 years ago, and I love this book. It's got a lot of things that I think a lot of us need to read, and we'll talk about in a second. Welcome, Sheriff.
Oh, pleasure's mine. Thank you for having me.
I mentioned that the book was written in 2016. I'm guessing your advice in here, first of all, give us a thumbnail sketch of what it's about, and is it still relevant?
Oh, very relevant. The book is a thumbnail sketch of basically how do you interact with the police when being stopped on the side of the road? How do you interact with the police in situations that could save your lives? Because it's a relationship that's going to take place quickly, and depending on how it takes place, they're going to depend on the outcome.
Now, I want to quote something from the book, and I want people to understand this is a quote from the book, and then you can react to it. You said, quote, "Police don't leave work in the morning planning to kill an African American." Do you still believe that? And if so, how do you explain so many recent incidents of excessive force?
Well, how I would explain is that people, I don't think they wake up with the intent is I'm going to kill someone. But sometimes in law enforcement, there are people that have, we have people that work in law enforcement that have racial issues, racism. And so the slightest interaction with the public can trigger all those things that they have left dormant, and it comes to surface. Because how I see you will determine how I respond to you, and how I respond to you and see you will determine what I'll do to you.
And this is also, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but African American officers are sensing that the uniform is what people see when they're mad at the uniform, not necessarily that it's someone of their same color.
Of course, you know, that brush is painted so broad that that painting is that one incident, 2 or 3, whether it be several incidents, affects all of us that carry a shield, whether it's a gold badge, federal badge, local or state. It affects all of us.
Now, some cities are saying, let's defund police departments. Let's dismantle police departments. Is that the best way to weed out bad officers, or what's your feeling?
Well, you know, I've spoken publicly on that. I don't think that's the way to defund. You know, I think maybe we need to reconstruct, reconfigure, retool some things. But how are we going to defund an organization, a law enforcement profession is already underfunded? I think that we need to have more funding in law enforcement for better training. An example that I've talked about several times is that the federal government every 5 years reinvestigate their agents. They send them back through the same process that they do to hire them. Local and state government doesn't do that because of the funding. So I think that things like that, funding, more funding, would increase better officers and also what I would call quality control.
Well, speaking of quality control, there are a lot of congresspersons, and even written in part of President Trump's legislation, calls for a national registry. Do you think that's a good idea, where if you've got a bunch of bad actors, complaints for excessive force, that these folks don't still get hired by other localities? And I mean, can the National Registry help?
Well, see, you know, I spoke with our Attorney General, Mr. Josh Stein, and you saw the order that came out from the governor's office. Basically, in every state, the top law enforcement official is the Attorney General. In order for that to work, it has to have some teeth. In other words, it has to be mandated, not a registry that is optional. So for an example, if there's a complaint against an officer, it must be registered with the AG's office. That way, it's a running log that's documented. And so when it gets to a point to, well, let's say your particular agency has so many complaints, then we notify your agency. And also, if that officer leaves or whatever, it should be required that the following agency check with the AG's office to see if there have been any complaints.
The ripple effect of a lot of these protests, Sheriff, includes things like we talked about defunding a minute ago of police departments, but now even closer to your heart, there's been some localities saying, hey, let's also defund the school resource officer program. Any thoughts on that?
Well, you know, I understand people talk about this thing they call prisoner pipeline. I get that, but there's so many things that go into this thing they call prisoner pipeline. It has a lot to do with how and our children in our schools are being educated. Their level of education, how they read, all these things factor in. But when it comes to SRO officers, the program that we have built in Forsyth County School System, that our officers are matched with each school because each school has a different personality.
Right.
The other thing that we've done is we've changed the uniform. The other thing we've done is all of our staff members volunteer in schools across the county. I myself, every Thursday, I teach a class, and I'm grateful for the superintendent and the school system that allow me to teach every Thursday.
Final thing, you're a sheriff elected by the people. You're a man of color. You're the father of 7 sons. Wrap us up here on this segment by explaining to me, are you at all conflicted by the roles that you fill in your own life every day?
You know, every day, you know, I've cried a lot over the last couple of months because I'm hurt by what I see. I'm very hurt by what I see. I think that we as a country, we've got to remove some of the barriers, remove some of the stigma, remove some of the racism, and realize that we're in this together. And these both pandemics that we're in are both contagious and lethal, and we need each other. So my words that I say to my sons, I say to everybody that I talk to, is that we've got to remove the racism. In 2020, we've got to do some things totally different. And you and I just talked about why now all these things are happening. Maybe it's causing us to see things from a different vantage. But just think about it, 2020 relates to eyesight.
Sheriff, I couldn't agree more, and I thank you for taking time. I know you're busy, especially in these times. Thanks for stopping by the garden and trying
Sir, you know, the pleasure's always mine to see you.
Sheriff
Love
Bobby
talking with you.
Kimbrough, who's worked on the federal and local level in law enforcement, and the book is Surviving the Stop. You can get it on Amazon. You can also check out what's going on in the Sheriff's Department with a website on screen. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
We'll be right back on Triad Today, and I'm always grateful for when we can spend a few minutes with our good friend Sheila Jones as she helps us understand more about the importance of hospice care and even ways that we can help hospice help others. And she's right here with us. Our good friend Sheila Jones, Director of Marketing and Public Relations for Mountain Valley Hospice and Palliative Care. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
A little windy here in the garden today, but it's okay. It's pretty.
It's beautiful.
Let's remind everyone, in case they haven't seen you on television before, very briefly, what hospice is and who you serve.
Hospice, we care for the serious illness population, folks who may have 6 months or less 6 months or less prognosis, as well as palliative care and transitions and several other programs to help take care of those folks, you know, in their senior years or maybe at end of life.
Right. Now, you know, we've talked a lot about on this program, and it's in the news, of course, the effect that the pandemic's had on everybody. How has it impacted you and your team? Have you been able to continue serving patients and families, especially those, because we know that you have 2 hospice homes, but for the most part you serve most people in their homes. So has the pandemic affected you in any way?
Yeah, it has. It's made a definite impact. About 90% of our patients and 95% of our patients are served in their homes. So we have to think about that, who's in their homes, who that we're coming in contact with, you know, keeping our staff safe, keeping the patients and families safe. You know, we put a lot of things in place to do that. All of our staff is wearing face masks all the time, you know, washing hands a lot, PPE for those, you know, full PPE when it's needed, and, you know, and preparing to care for those patients who may also have COVID. And so that's been something that we've been working on, and we do, and we've been successful. So, you know, it has made an impact on how we look at things and how we do things, but our team was able just to smooth right into that in a very easy manner.
And for those who have loved ones in one of your hospice homes, either in the Yadkin area or in the Mount Airy area, can they feel rest assured that if their loved ones are being cared for okay during the pandemic, that the precautions are taken there as well?
Yes, sir, very much so. We've put extra precautions in place, like we don't have our common areas in our buildings open. Folks stay in within the rooms. We are allowing visitors, which is, you know, some folks have not been able to do that. We feel that it's very important to have your loved ones around you at end of life. So we're allowing visitors. There is some restrictions. We're following CDC guidelines for all that. Even before we go to a home, we're following those guidelines. But, you know, we may call and ask those questions. Have you been around anybody? Those kinds of things. So yeah, we put those precautions in place and have been able to serve several families and be okay with that.
You've been on the show a lot in the past, and I've talked about a lot of different topics, and I've had personal experience with hospice. And one of the common questions that I get from people is, Jim, remind us now, if we have a loved one who has a serious illness and it's just been diagnosed, do I need to go get a slip or something or in writing from a doctor, or can I call up Sheila and the folks at Mountain Valley and have a consult, or what happens?
very much so. It is so easy. If you've been told that you have a serious illness, it is simply just making a phone call to us. One phone call and say, hey, I need care, or hey, my loved one needs care. We'll take it and run from there and do all the legwork with the physicians and with the, the doctors and different things. And we will be able to do a consult and evaluate that patient. And we'll evaluate them to see where they fall in the spectrum of what service we can offer or assist them. And even if we can't assist them, we will help them find what services they need.
And I think I can't emphasize too much. I'm just going to make a personal statement. We didn't rehearse this, but folks, if this situation is something you're dealing with, don't wait around. The care that your loved one can receive at end of life, making them comfortable, please, don't wait. They can pick up the phone immediately after knowing about the diagnosis, right?
Exactly.
I want to put something up on screen and make sure we have time for everybody to look at it. mtmvalleyhospice.org is the website. Please check that out for many, many reasons, because there are a lot of programs that they're involved with that we've talked to you about over the years, helping veterans, helping kids, helping families, serving the families of loved ones. 888 is the toll-free number, 789-2922. So we hope you'll call for an appointment if that's something that you need to do right now, and we hope you will. Sheila, thanks for everything you do. I don't thank you enough for you and the team and everything you do, but thanks for everything you're doing for folks.
Thank you, and thank you for helping us to spread the word that we're here to care for the folks.
All right. We'll be right back. Right now on Triad Today, and you know what I want to know? I want to know what kinesiology is. So you know what? I just happened to have a fellow UNCG Spartan drop by the garden, and she's going to talk with us a little bit about it. I'm with Pam Brown. She's professor and director in the Doctor of Education program of kinesiology at UNCG. Welcome. Good to see you.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
All right, educate me in 10 seconds or whatever. Just give me a thumbnail sketch. When people say, what does she mean kinesiology?
Sure. Kinesiology, it's the study of physical activity and human movement. Sometimes it's referred to exercise and sport science or health and human performance.
Knowing how to exercise right? I mean, does all that come into play?
Knowing how to exercise right, how much exercise, how important it is to your mental health, your physical health, even things like academic performance.
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't think about that, because it does. If you're in shape and having fun and exercising, you're going to do better in school probably. Hey, I was reading something, and it might have either been an email from you or something I was reading about the program that talked about how unique your particular program is. Now, why do you say it's unique?
Well, our program's unique because it's the only one in the country that we're the only ones to actually offer a doctorate of education in kinesiology totally online. So
the whole thing's online.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you, academicians a lot of time when they come on the show, we like to throw around the word interdisciplinary because, they sort of work with different departments and whatever. But yours is sort of interdisciplinary for real, in motion. I mean, because you help a lot of different students for a lot of different reasons, right?
yeah, we are interdisciplinary. The field of kinesiology really is. I mean, we take into account things like psychology, sociology, history. So our students come from a broad range of professions. I mean, we have people that are sports performance professionals, fitness professionals, teachers, coaches, administrators, even
Coming
social
from all
workers,
places,
right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Social workers and everything. Now, what about the pandemic? I hate to put you on the spot with this, but it's had to have some impact. It's had impact on everybody's lives, colleges and high schools and whatever. How have you been able to adjust to that, or have you?
Yeah, so lucky for us, we were already online. This spring we had planned to do all of our dissertations online with our students, so we went forward with that. It was a little bit different for some people. Everyone was home doing schoolwork and things like that. One of our students had twins, and to find a quiet space without everyone in their house, she did her dissertation defense in her minivan. So,
Right.
We were business as usual in a lot of ways, but it was a challenge for everyone.
Now, we didn't rehearse this or anything, but I'm just curious. If somebody gets an advanced degree and they're through you and the online and the kinesiology, what's an example? Give me one example of what somebody can do with that knowledge.
Sure. So in some cases, they can become a director of an athletic training program,
Okay.
so a master's program. They can use those credentials to better themselves in their current workplaces. Some of them are trying to earn faculty positions. So it's really a mix, but again, it's with the broad idea of physical activity and human movement, and that falls in a wide range of
Right.
positions.
Well, I just think what you're doing is fascinating, and I think I understand it a little bit better right now. I want to put something up on screen. It's a website that can get you to the area that Dr. Brown is working with, and it's www.kin.uncg.edu and a little backslash there for good measure, and that will give them all sorts of great information. Pam Brown, thanks for doing this,
Thank you.
and we'll be right back after that. Back now on Triad Today, I want to talk about education with three very special guests. They've all been here before, and we're so glad they're here right now. On my immediate right, David Daggett, attorney with Daggett Schuler. He and his partner, Griff Schuler, who is socially distanced behind us, brought with them a very special guest, another two-time visitor to the show. We're glad to have her back. Dr. Angela Hairston, she's superintendent of Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Is it okay if I call you Angela?
That's great.
Okay.
It's fine.
Because he makes me call him Mr. Daggett. So it's,
She makes me call her Dr. Hairston.
well, so there you go. Angela, the COVID pandemic, seriously now, has had such an impact on everybody in different ways. What are you doing to help students and teachers and adjust and get ready for the new school year, given everything that's been going on?
Well, this past 3 months, the past 3 months has been sort of a practice run for us because we know that we'll have some out of school online learning time in the fall. So we're doing more training this summer, talking to teachers, students, asking questions to find out what worked and what did not work.
What about parents specifically? What would you like for parents to know going into the new school year?
The school year will look very different. There will be some time that we'll have children in school under the new guidelines, and there'll be times when children are at home for stretches of time. So we need their continued support, patience, and try to be resilient through this process.
It's been tough. We were talking off camera. It's been tough on parents because they really see what teachers go through, don't
Absolutely, absolutely. We really get to see what teachers go through day to day, and hope they appreciate them a little bit more.
Yeah, but now see that the parents want a tax increase to give them a raise. David, you and Griff, of course, are famous for working with schools, being partners with schools. Through the pandemic, have you been able to continue being good partners with the schools?
We've had to adjust. Want to commend Dr. Hairston, the teachers, and the system for what they have done to adjust. For example, we got our Safe Sober Prom Night t-shirts out to all the schools, and all the students got them with their diploma at graduation.
Oh, okay.
So find a different way. As you know, I coach wrestling at Reynolds High School. I've spent more time texting and calling some of the student athletes, particularly the ones that are in more vulnerable situations,
Right.
to try to stay in touch with them. And I think it's something that all the community can do, is focus a little more attention on our youth wherever you see them, because now more than ever, they need the arms of support and encouragement wrapped around them by everybody.
Absolutely. And Griff, I know you've been in all the schools too, working with David on various projects, whether it's Safe Sober or the backpacks or various things like that. Why is public education so important to you guys?
Well, we have to invest in our future, Jim. And so anytime that we can shine a spotlight on students, wrap our arms around them as a community, help them along, guide them, help them to see making right choices are important. And obviously a huge part of young people is the academics. And so getting behind the school system and being able to provide strong academics, whether it's in person or virtually, is something that we all need to take to heart and be serious about.
Yeah, because that whole virtual and online thing has really sort of saved the day, hasn't it,
It
Angela?
has, it has. And
Yeah.
we were prepared. I'm pleased to say we were prepared.
Well, I knew you would be prepared. I can tell you. Now, but seriously, now let's talk about partnerships before we run out of time here. Why is it so important for you as a superintendent to be able to share partnerships with folks like David and Griff and Daggett Schuler?
Well, they lift our teachers and administrators up. They fill in the gaps, and these gentlemen certainly have done that over the years. And there's so many gaps that are out there that we can't even think of, and they graciously give back and give to our students, and it makes us feel a part of a great community.
David, any final thoughts?
Well, we're just proud of our school system. Education is the great equalizer and the great gateway to opportunity in our society. We all need to get behind that, encourage it. It looks different, but we got to move forward and make sure each individual student is given that opportunity for education.
Good thought. On screen, if you want information about what's going on with the school system, Dr. Harrison, and what she's doing for the community, go to wsfcs.k12.nc.us. That website is on screen. And also, for more information about Daggett Schuler, go to daggettschulerlaw.com, or you can call for an appointment 724-1234 should you need the help of these gentlemen who give help to a lot of folks for a lot of different reasons. And I appreciate what all three of you do for the community, seriously. Thanks a lot for everything.
Thanks, Jim.
Good job on the schools.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be right back after this. Now on Triad Today, just about time for the roundtable, but another shout out to the good folks, John Wisnett and his staff here at the Senior Botanical Garden in Kernersville. Great place to visit. Go to their website, .org, seniorbotanicalgarden.org, and I hope you will do that soon. Also, pick up your copy of Yes Weekly if you would, and hope you'll enjoy my column in there. And if you don't tell me. What Ogie tells me if he doesn't like it. All right, to the round table. On my right, but always the political left, Ogie Overman, the great broadcaster, journalist. Back behind him, and social distance, we kept David Daggett over from the last segment, and we appreciate his participation. And Keith Granberry rounding out the group, founder of Helping Hands Consultants. Guys, last week we talked about the controversy over how some cities want to defund or dismantle or reform police departments. Let's focus in on a different angle of that. There are some localities, including Greensboro, who want to cut back or end funding for school resource officers. Ogie, any thoughts?
I think that's a bad idea, Jim. That's missing the point. They provide a valuable service. That's exactly when we're reallocating funds. We should be beefing up the school resource. That's not a cop job. That's an SRO job.
Mr. Daggett.
I've been in every high school in the Triad. Your high school resource officers, 99.9% of them are fabulous and add to the student experience. Absolutely, they're needed and necessary in our schools. I agree with Ogie. I would add to it.
Mr. Granberry.
I think that you shouldn't defund school resources. These officers, they make a difference, but I also think you need to take some of the money that you're using for other things and add more money to teachers in these impoverished areas.
Right. Okay, guys, this is sort of a spin-off from the protest, because this could apply to any protest, and we've had this come up in years past. And it's about I-40 being blocked off, with protesters blocked off in both lanes of I-40 in two different locations. The police, out of courtesy to the protesters, did a great job, closed off the ramps, kept the traffic off of them for 40 minutes. Now my problem though, and I want to ask you guys about this, it's technically against the law to block an interstate. You're blocking the emergency traffic and everything else. I don't know if there's a legal thing that David can speak to, but should the police have not said to the protesters, look, you guys need to disperse over to the side or something, and not closed it off for 40 minutes? Ogie.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a problem with that, Jim. I hate to say it, but I'm afraid there's going to be a bit of a backlash. I'm afraid we're going to alienate some of our natural allies who, if you're waiting on the interstate 40 minutes and got to go someplace, I can think, what are these people doing? Come on.
Doctor's appointment or something.
Yeah,
David.
yeah.
I share Ogie's concern. People have to get to home to babysitters or what have you that are very important. Quite frankly, my perspective is under the current circumstances, irregardless of the laws, I think both the police and the protesters handled the situation with the highest level that you could handle it under the circumstances.
No doubt. Keith?
And
I think that if you're inconvenienced for 40 minutes, you need to realize the inconvenience that black people and brown people have had for 400 years. 8 minutes and 40 seconds, this guy had a person on his neck, he died. Eric Garner died. This is the cost of trying to change the system. And so if you're inconvenienced for that amount of time, just think about how people have lived under these circumstances, and then I think you'll rethink your attitude.
Yeah, and I want to say something just off base just a second. Folks might not remember when we had a 10th anniversary show in 2013. Ogie was on that, Keith was on that, and Keith made the prediction when I said, what do you think is going to happen within 10 years? And Keith said, something's going to happen to change the way we govern. And it sort of happened.
That's right.
For a lot of things, the pandemic, the Black Lives Matter thing. Anyway, okay. In light of recent events, the TV show Cops has been canceled, and HBO's taking Gone with the Wind off the air until they can figure out how to explain what it is. Were those cancellations respectful, or an overreaction, Ogie?
Yeah, I think so. They're not really killing Gone with the Wind. They're just going to put it in some historical context, make a statement about the temper of the times.
All right,
So
David
I'm
Daggett.
okay with it.
Well, we did that with Walt Disney movies earlier on, is put in context historically. That's probably the proper thing to do and give proper recognition.
Mr. Granberry.
Again, I think the depiction of people on TV is very important. John Wayne killing Indians, Dukes of Hazzard with the Confederate flag on their car. I mean, these are all things that it started with the birth of a nation back when Ku Klux Klan members were looked at as heroes.
Yeah.
And that
They were the heroes of that
They were
film.
the heroes in the film, which created an explosion of Klan members and lynchings across America. So we can't look at TV and say it doesn't matter, because media is incredibly important. So I think it's important that they do this.
Put it in context.
Absolutely.
All right, changing subjects. If all goes as expected, the city of Danville will have a mega casino and hotel complex open in 2023. Danville's just a short drive for the Triad. So guys, what do you think? Will this new mega casino have a negative impact on the North Carolina education lottery sales, which helps education? Ogie.
Why Danville? That's my question.
Well, they
What's the
they
big
cut a deal. It was Danville, Bristol, and I think Portsmouth or something. They were all vying for something. And
Who's going to go to Danville? I don't think it'll have much of an effect.
you don't think so?
Not really.
David Daggett.
I don't think it'll have much of an effect. I think gambling's isn't it one of the 7 deadly sins? That's right. People are going to continue, and I don't think it's going to have an effect.
Keith, what do you think?
I don't think it's that effect. Matter of fact, it may help because a lot of people from around the country in these areas may come in these areas, and they may spend more money in Greensboro areas.
So you're not going to drive to Danville to gamble?
Absolutely not going to Danville to gamble.
All right. Well, you got that on record now. All right. Finally, according to researchers at San Diego State University, people are having less sex now because they're spending more time on social media. Guys, my question to you is: do you spend a lot of time on social media? Ogie Overman.
That's a non sequitur, Jim.
Just answer the question.
It's not an either or thing.
It isn't?
You can do both.
Can you?
Yeah.
David
you can.
Daggett, do you spend a lot of time on social media?
I take the fifth on both parts of the question.
Well, Keith Granberry, you're not an attorney. You can't take the. What do you think? Do you spend a lot of time on social media?
I don't even know what the social media is. What is that? When did that start? When was it created?
Ken doesn't. Yeah, Keith doesn't know. It's something Al Gore did. I
That's
think.
right. Oh yeah, Al Gore. Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
can't.
Okay.
These guys are uncontrollable. Oh, that's all the time we have. Oh, except for this. The Crayola Company, the company makes the crayons. The Crayola Company has announced they have this new mega set. It's a true story. Mega set of crayons. It's every crayon you can imagine. And their theme is we have the color of every color skin of everybody in the world. They did have one complaint. Quote, "What happened to the orange?" said Donald Trump. For all of us here, except for Keith, who's driving up to Danville after the show, I'm Jim Longworth. We'll see you next time.